welcome to Ask the Manager. We have a school committee member here with us today, Rachel Sharifipour.
Thank you.
You're in your first year?
This is my first year.
And you have 3 children in the school
I
system?
have 3 girls. I have my oldest is in 6th grade. She's at Sherwood. And then I have 2 at Beale. I have a 4th grader and I have a 1st grader. So I'm busy.
You're very busy.
I am.
But you know what? Even you know, because your kids are older now, enjoy it. It goes by so fast. It really does.
It does.
Yeah.
The days are long, but
Yeah.
when you look back at everything, it flies by.
Yeah. And when you look back, you go, it wasn't that hard.
No, I'll look back and say it was that
I
hard.
was exhausted. So let's start with the Shrewsbury High School expansion that got declined by SBAB?
MSBA.
MSBA. See, I can't keep up with the lingo, but it was, it's MSBA.
That's correct.
Mass,
School Building Authority.
there you go. And so it got declined. So let's talk about that for starters.
Sure.
Sure.
You want me to start?
Yeah, if you want. Sure.
Yeah, it did. Which it was fine. It was, so as backstory for those that don't know it. So the school committee and the select board last year had voted to put a statement of interest in for the high school to MSBA to help with. We had submitted it for 3 things. One was the chronic overcrowding that we had. Also because of the HVAC in the roof, and also because of not having access to Assabet to be able to provide some more career technical education. So that was submitted to the MSBA. We did make it pretty far in the process. They came out for a site visit. They visited the high school. They met with Dr. Sawyer. They met with a whole host of people. And ultimately, even though we got pretty far in the process, they came back and we were not selected in the end for this round. But we'll see what happens. We still have the same issues. The school is still very overcrowded.
And let me interrupt. When everyone moved into the school 20-something years ago, we were already pretty much to capacity because it takes so much time to get the school built and all with all the approval process. We were pretty much at capacity. So if I'm not mistaken, it's like it was supposed to be built for 1,475 students, and by today's standards, it's more like 1,200.
Yeah.
1,200, 1,250 students, and in 2020 we had 1,900 students.
Right.
So we're certainly over capacity in that school, and it's a beautiful school. It still is.
It is.
We have a lot to be proud of with that building. So what would the plan have been if it had gone forward?
Yeah, so it was roughly
Not a new school, an addition.
No, yeah, an 80 to 90,000 square foot addition that basically connects the A and the B wings together across the back, 3 stories high. That gives us the additional space that we need. That's just part of the cost, as Rachel said. One of the most beneficial parts of the whole project would be climate controlling the whole building, right? We've run into these continual problems. We saw it at the beginning of this school year, the end of last school year. Temperatures, especially in the upper floors of the schools, become not conducive to education. You know, there's a temperature that we can't have school, and there's a temperature that is somewhere below that. It's just not comfortable to even teach in, right? So we're trying to combat that. None of us believe that's changing in the near future.
Right.
So how are we going to deal with it and provide appropriate educational services to the 1,900 plus students that are there? So, and I mean, I just want to like double down on your point. It's a beautiful building. It's 22 years old
Already.
right? Yeah, already.
See, time flies.
It's paid off as far as a debt service standpoint goes. It was you know, about a $65 million endeavor that we took on then. It was paid off a couple of years ago. It was a 20-year term. So it needs some things minimally, even if we're not going to do an addition, right? It's going to need a roof really soon. It's a flat roof. They have a certain life to them. So this is a great opportunity to explore all the needs at one time for that building in and of itself.
But also to add on to what Kevin was saying is that yes, the roof needs to be done, the HVAC, because temperature is not going to be changing. And at the beginning of the school year, Dr. Sawyer, actually, we had to do a half a day because of how warm some of the buildings were becoming. But I think it's in the spring that the town was actually able to, we have temporary AC units that are going to be used at some of the upper floors of the high schools. I think some of the elementary schools are also getting them too, just to try and, for lack of a better word, put a Band-Aid on it to make sure that we can still teach kids and they're comfortable and that the staff is able to do their job too. So it does need to be fixed, but we do have a little bit of a
the building has curb appeal, right?
Yes,
Which
it
is going to
does.
make it a challenge for people to understand why the investment is needed. So, but the numbers that you put out there identify the need.
But along with that, you can resubmit that request again next year to the state.
Yep.
Right? So that will, I assume, happen without a doubt. Maybe you can look at it and see where you can actually improve upon what was presented. I'm sure that'll happen because Joe Sawyer is very thorough when it comes to that.
He is very thorough. I think definitely the select board and the school committee, we talk to each other regularly to try and be on the same page about things. But I think both of us, select board and school committee, know that the overcrowding is still there. It's going to be there for the next few years. We don't have class sizes that are coming down. We have students that are in the high school because they don't have access to Assabet. So these things are continuing on. And we have been creative about how to fit all of those kids in the school. But it also takes away from being able to add programming that we would like to. So.
And along with that, of course, my wheels are turning. More students means you need more athletic fields or space for the athletic events to occur. And it's a great building. It's still a building that we can be very proud of. It's not that it's in shambles. It's just it is 22 years old, and we do need to make upgrades and repairs, and we do need to find space because 1,250 and you have 1,900 students, something's wrong with the number. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes from there. The other, I'm taking over. I should let you talk.
No,
I was interested in the school security, and I have to confess the reason it's in the news, so it's disgusting and terrible what happens. But I also happen to have a son who's a retired state trooper in Connecticut who does school security for a town that's very affluent, and all those schools in that town have a school armed safety officer in the building besides the school resource officer. So I'm hearing, so my ears were abuzz to that. And I was disappointed because, of course, I wanted to hear the details, and I thought it was just honestly, a waste of time. In one sentence, you could have said, we've reviewed it and we can't reveal the information. It was very helpful to us, but, for the purposes of safety, we can't talk about it. That should have been enough. They were from Virginia, and I'm thinking, okay, how does Virginia relate to Massachusetts? How does Virginia relate to New England? Do they have the same issues? Do they, and I have no idea. And I, like I said, the people that needed to hear the information heard it. So is there any message between the two of you that you can share with us without revealing the information? Whether you have confidence in what they're saying, what's the plan?
I thought it was very, without revealing anything, but I had full confidence in the report that they gave us. There wasn't anything that made me uncomfortable. I think that we're doing a good job as a district already. I think that everybody should have full confidence in the safety of our schools. There's little things that we can do, not anything that is like critical that you would be worried about something happening. It could be, just adding to our computer technology, things like that. But I don't think that there was anything glaring that would send up a red flag that we have to do major changes to the schools.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And with regards to the company's highly qualified to do that work. They work for the federal government in areas of physical security, and they do a lot of school work as well across the country. So I don't think geography matters in this instance, right? It's about having the right people who understand what threats there are out there and how we can best try to prevent them. And yeah, we're doing a really good job, and let's find ways to do it even better. That's where we're at.
So can any of that information be applied to this application next year?
I don't necessarily for the high school.
Mm-hmm. I bet there is.
I don't know. I mean, I guess we could.
I mean, it'll be integrated if there's physical things that need to be
Yeah.
upgraded, but the building in and of itself,
Yeah.
pretty good right now.
Because when you look at the MSBA, they also have their priorities in
Right.
terms of
It's
what the highest one is basically if a building's falling down
Right.
around you, or if
Right.
it's a health issue to students and staff that work in there. The second one is overcrowding, and the list goes down there. And I don't know, I'd have to go back to look at what the priorities are. I'm not sure that there's like a specific line on it, but it could definitely be that it's enhancing the building to make sure it's safe for all. But
so now I'm going to let you ask a question.
I don't know. These
Okay.
questions, I don't
So
know.
I have more.
Okay.
So we had snow, not like Alaska, but we did have snow. And I really think it's pretty good the way those 2-hour delays seem to be working, because a lot of times, you know, they could have had school if they just waited an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it does make it safer for the kids trying to get to school. But I was actually shocked that sidewalks weren't plowed where we have walkers for 2 days. So kids went to school for 2 days. And so I think it's good when you have a complaint or you have a criticism to come up with a solution. So my solution is, if you can't get people to plow in a timely manner to be ready for school, which I think is very important. And one example, it's not just the only location, but Old Mill Road was not plowed for 2 days. Kids walk from the middle school, and they're going to get hit because they're not walking on the sidewalk. It's not plowed. And near the high school, I think it wasn't plowed either. But if you can't get people to plow, because I know you're always struggling to get plows and so forth, what about on snow days to have a snow bus for those walkers that can't, if they can't walk on a sidewalk, have a bus, supply a bus for them? Just a thought. You know, until you can get them plowed, rather than delaying school, have a snow bus. There's probably certain neighborhoods that it would maybe be worthwhile. But I was really worried. I saw Old Mill Road, and the cars come down Old Mill Road pretty fast. And I thought, there's so many kids that walk from, and they walk beyond, I live on Bunker Hill Road, but they walk beyond my neighborhood. They're still walking, you know, towards the pond, towards the other end of Old Mill Road and Harrington Ave, and they walk. And the cars just go too fast for them. And if they don't have a sidewalk to walk on, there has to be another solution. So that was one of my ideas.
I mean, it's a good idea. I think logistically it could be difficult, just because we do have a lot of walkers that, I mean, there is a certain radius that kids are walking from, but I know.
We have school buses that stop every 20 feet.
True.
And you think, why can't these kids gather in one place? You know, the high school kids, for example. Why do you have to have the bus stop every 20 feet? And you say, oh, it's a busy street. Well, if you feel that way, then what about the kids walking down the hill or up the hill? Anyways, just a thought. Old Beale, is that moving forward?
It's still in the court system.
Oh, it still is.
Yep.
Oh.
So we won't have any indication maybe until the first week of March or so.
So because it's in the court system, I can't say to you, could anything have been done better?
So the judge has granted our request for arguments for summary judgment, which is an indication that he feels that there may be a way to get to summary judgment, which is, basically means the defendants haven't been able to prove that they have standing in to bring a suit forward or appeal the decision of the planning board. So that is working its way through the process during the month of February, and the judge is expected to rule on that I think either the 28th or 29th of this month, if everything stays on track. I don't know where the court is on it as it goes this week.
Because I was thinking, how long does it take to come up with a conclusion to this? I mean, it's not that complex, that it either is or isn't appropriate. So.
Yeah.
But I'll have to talk to the judge on that, whoever it is.
Yeah, that's out of my
that's out of your hands.
Yep.
And I heard through the grapevine that our DPW director has left the town.
Yes.
Have we replaced?
No, we haven't. We'll be posting the position before the end of this week, but we're still in the process of doing that.
And what's the word out on the street? Is it difficult to get a DPW director, or are there a lot of people with that type of experience?
I think we'll be in a good competitive spot. I actually don't know. I know the only town that I know that's recently looked for one, Westboro was able to hire in the position within the first cycle. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It's a good opportunity for us. Take a different look. Mr. Howland was the first DPW director. That's not what he's originally hired to do. He's promoted, and then he was hired as the town engineer and then promoted into the DPW director position. Did a really good job of helping form that department as an organization. And with his departure, we'll look to build on that success and continue to modernize and proactively manage our infrastructure. So, yeah.
Going back to the schools, Dr. Sawyer presented his recommendations or an overview of the school system. Was it at your last meeting or one of your last couple of meetings?
Yeah,
recently.
His state of the district.
Yes.
Yeah.
State of the district. So do you have any comments about that?
I think first of all, I think how he presented it was very well done.
Informative.
It was informative, and he spoke clearly, and I like when people don't read from a piece of paper, and he's very well versed on the district.
He lives and breathes it.
He does. And I mean, not only is he the superintendent of the schools, but he's had 3 kids that have gone through the district. So he's also invested as a parent too. To echo what he said, we have so much to be proud of in the district. We've had some really great things since the last time he gave his state of the district, with RISE coming to be, and we're a unified champion school district. There's a lot of positives that have come out of the last year, but there's also a lot of challenges that he and his district leadership team and us as a school committee are supporting the school with, because there have been challenges since COVID that they existed before, but they have exacerbated themselves. So making sure that we have, like, behavioral health is a big thing, and making sure we have the right people on board, that we're able to educate all students. And these are things that it's not going to go away, and they need our support. But we have a plan going forward, and it's all hands on deck. But
you mentioned the RISE program, and that takes place now right at the center of town in the old Hales drugstore building, Rite Aid building. Yeah. It's been a few names. And I like that they put an open sign in the window, because they have the windows that you can't tell. It keeps the sun out, but you can't tell if it's open or not open. So I was happy to see that they put an open sign in the window. How's that working out?
I've been in there several times. And I'm sure I'm not special, but I'm sure everybody that goes in, they get a personal shopper. I think they're doing fantastic. But I think it's also important for everybody to know that Rise, the storefront, is just a small part of the program. The program is a much bigger educational experience for the students that are in there.
Explain that a little bit more.
So Rise, those are students who, within special ed for ages 18 to 22, we are still educating them in the school system. And this program and this educational track that they're on is helping them essentially be ready for the real world and get opportunities. So the retail store is one thing, but they also have internships. We have them in Patton and Floral in the high school. There are different jobs that they're interning at. They have some opportunities at Worcester State. There are Shrewsbury Club, where they go in and they'll do jobs and they interact with customers and clients, and they build these working skills. They build self-confidence. But there's also time spent. So the back half of Maple and Maine is actually classroom space. So they spend some time in there too. But it's a great program. It's phenomenal. And since it opened back in November to now, if you go in, you can definitely see that there is a huge difference in some of these students. And they're so proud of the work that they're doing, and they should be very proud of themselves. But it's a great program, and it's a huge, there are so many people involved in that, but Meg Balsito, who is our assistant superintendent of student services, was so instrumental in this. But yeah, anybody that
What
has
do they sell?
So they have lots of goodies. There's stickers, there's t-shirts. They actually just had students design a shirt, and they did artwork and they put them on shirts, and they sell shirts, sweatshirts. There's candles, there's candy, there's pens, there's a lot of different things. It's so mugs, coffee mugs. I'm usually walking around with my coffee mug at work, so it's good.
The rule in my house, if you dare bring another coffee mug in this house, make sure you
gotta
take
get
one out of
one
the
out. Yeah.
off the shelf. But I like them.
They're pretty.
I know.
That's a good rule.
It is, but it doesn't work.
No,
I
they
win.
just keep collecting.
I know. So on the finance committee meeting, there, I think it was Mr. O'Connell made a comment that there should be an invitation to town meeting members to come to all the budget hearings. And I thought to myself, my first reaction was, my God, I did that long enough. I'm not going to come sit in a budget. No, but the other part was, he needs to understand that a lot of people watch that from home. Mm-hmm. So the luxury is you may be a town meeting member and you don't go to the meeting, but you're at home eating popcorn, watching on TV, mm-hmm. you know, and you can walk around, and it's nice that it's on TV. Mm-hmm. It's a great service that we can see that, because the budget hearings are the best hearings of the year. Mm-hmm. And I've heard other people now saying that.
Good.
What do you think?
I think it's an incredible opportunity to be able to get further in the weeds than we do in any other public hearing or meeting process throughout the year. We go department by department, line by line where we need to really explain where taxpayer dollars are being spent and what our priorities are and what changes from year to year. Most of that's incremental, because that's the type of additional funding that we get in comparison to the budget, but I agree. It's a great opportunity to talk about what it is that we do.
The one impression I got, and it could be the wrong impression, I hope the new finance committee members realize that those meetings are there for them to be able to ask all the questions they want. That, yes, you're on a schedule, but that there's time for them to ask all the questions that they want to have answered.
As you know, there was a big transition period with a lot of new members, and the tenure of the committee is still relatively short, but the group that's there now is, has a couple years under their belt. I think nearly, except for one individual, everyone went through the hearings last year. So it's right, we give them a couple binders worth of information, and it's hard to find the trees in the forest, so to
I missed
speak.
that binder, just so you know.
So, we spent a little bit of time at their last meeting asking them what we can do better and what information that they would like to see receive, and they gave us some good feedback. So I look forward to this year, because I think it'll be again, a good year because folks have more time under their belts, and it's a good, curious group of individuals who sit on the committee. So I think it'll lead to good outcomes before we get to town meeting.
Good, good. Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services. I think it already got thrown away in my house. I couldn't find it when I was looking for it. But when I looked through it quickly, I noticed that 1% of the people that go there aren't even from Shrewsbury. Why are we paying, or why are tax dollars going towards a program which helps us and it helps the schools, and it's a good program? Why are we having people come in from other towns?
Well, so we only provide part of their funding first and foremost, and I would say that.
But it's grown tremendously over the years.
Oh yeah, the town's contribution has. So I get a report on a quarterly basis that does illustrate how all of our dollars are spent, and that's all Shrewsbury oriented. I think it's a community resource, and I know as an organization and the board is they're actually expanding their services to other towns, and they have a closer partnership with the town of Westboro at this point. So I don't know how that plays into the figures.
But there's other towns too. On that list, there were other
Sure,
towns. I was trying to find that
Yep.
list. And I'm thinking, I hope our people aren't waiting, because I had heard there's a waiting list for people to get in to have services, that they have to wait. And if they have to wait, what are they waiting? Are they waiting for people from other towns to have their visits before they can get in? And are we going to now defeat the purpose of that program where it was strong for Shrewsbury? Are we going to defeat that purpose to be a human service organization for other towns or Worcester County? It just caught my attention, and I haven't had a chance to ask anyone who might have more information. Do either of you know?
I don't. I mean, I will say that I think there's a long list anywhere that you go. Private practices. I know with, kids that are going for ADD, ADHD, just psychology, those neuropsych testing, those can be 6, 10, 12 months of going to a private place. So it wouldn't surprise me that there's a wait list, whether you live in Shrewsbury or if you were coming from a surrounding town.
And it said it's only 1%, but what, next year is it going to be 3%? And are we going to defeat the purpose? And I go back to, I can't remember the judge's name after all these years, who wanted this program in the first place because he was seeing too many Shrewsbury kids coming through his court system. So that's how this originated. And it's a very strong program. It's a very good program. And I've heard nothing but good things as it's helpful to the schools. And I just hope their strong program doesn't lose its way. And
from my perspective, we're not even close to that. I'll have to go back and look at their other funding sources and things. I know when we provided additional funding for clinicians, that has always been backed up by the services that they're providing to Shrewsbury residents. So
how do they prove that?
Well, they provide us with the amount of money that we pay into them on a quarterly basis and the hours of dedicated service that they're providing using those dollars. So mental health clinicians, drug abuse prevention, other school initiatives, things like that.
Okay. How much do we give now? The town's portion?
About $275,000.
I mean, I can remember when we used to fight over going from $3,000 to $4,000. And seriously, and now you're talking a couple $100,000. It's substantial. And on top of that, if you have insurance, I'm sure they use insurance, which is very important. I think it's a great group. They work their tails off for fundraising. And there's so much benefit to the town. I just don't want them to be a Worcester County service and lose they're providing good services to the people in other towns, but the other towns need to step up. Do they contribute? If people come from other towns, are they contributing to this?
Absolutely,
So, okay, enough of that. Is there going to be a jet ski ban on the lake? I have flight of ideas, so we jump all over the place.
That's great.
jet ski ban on the
know.
lake? Did they
It wouldn't be-
decide?
It wouldn't be my recommendation, I'll say that. I know it's a point of conversation that's been going, and, you know, there's some residents that would like to see that, but I think that is an approach that penalizes the rule followers and the lawful operators of jet skis who really enjoy and like using them and are doing nothing wrong. It'd be like banning cars for speeding, right? Like you can't drive an automobile because some people choose to speed. I think we've done a lot to be able to improve and increase our enforcement, and the environmental police and the city of Worcester police are also stepping up. Sure, we still have room for improvement, but you know, I think we can find solutions other than outright banning jet skis, limiting other ideas that have been brought forth, like noise control and things like that, that gets at the problem that people are actually experiencing while allowing people to still operate them lawfully.
Now get this one. How many years have you been here?
6.5.
6.5 years. And you said when you first came here, you were looking forward to going fishing on the lake. Have you even done it twice?
No, I've been on the lake many times.
Yes,
But
but have
never
you gone
fished.
fishing?
Never
And that's what
fished.
you were going to do, right? You haven't even done it twice in 6.5 years.
Boy, did I
have time.
understand my job.
We fooled him. Okay. There's going to be a change in trash hauler.
There is.
Now, I have to say, we haven't had trouble in our neighborhood at all.
You know,
For everything that's happened, and I'm not defending the other company.
No, I have to say, for our neighborhood, I live down the street from Donna. I've never had an issue.
Right.
The bags are not the best quality. They
Right.
rip as I'm lugging them to the sidewalk. But they always come like
Yeah.
within a 20-minute window, and I've personally never had any
Right.
issues with it.
But we're excited to be going with Casella. They were the low bid by a substantial amount of money.
Yes, over $300,000.
Can you imagine that? So
We are just agree with the bag challenges, and we're actually looking at a couple of different options as we turn the corner and do our next bag runs. One, higher density bags. But I think the real issue that we're facing is the manufacturing components. So we're looking at an option with like ears to tie rather than drawstrings, because that drawstring is where they weld it together is a point of failure. So we look to offer those as an option moving forward for those that want to try them.
So Casella was low bidder by 14%. So they weren't even close, the other competitors. And Casella has a good reputation. They already service the town.
They service the town for yard waste. Yep.
And they know our streets. And they're prepared to come in. The difference will be what's called single stream recycling. What is that?
So you don't have to separate your recyclables. Anything that is currently recyclable can all go into a single container, including cardboard, and will be placed at the curb weekly. And so that'll eliminate confusion, whether it's a commingled week or a cardboard week, but you'll still get the same frequency of service. And we will be providing toters for individuals to put their recycling in.
So there'll be a special cart, and we have to use that cart because it's probably one
It'll
that.
be automated. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And pay as you throw will be the same.
Correct. On the
And
solid waste side. Yep. Trash side.
it's a 6-year agreement. So it goes from 1.82 million to 2.41 million in 6 years. It's a lot of money, but what are you going to do?
Right. Yeah, and that represents roughly half of the cost of the program. That's just the curbside collection, and then the disposal of the recycling materials, and even the most substantial parts, the disposal of the trash as a tipping fee at the incinerator.
And they're going to have an app, so we're going to be able to use that app as a resource, which a lot of people will be happy about. It'll be better communication. They're supposed to have people available by phone,
6 days a week.
and also you can email them
Yep.
if
Yep.
you want. And it's going to be interesting because the change, we went from Pellegrino, which everybody was happy with, waste management, not a lot of people, depending upon neighborhoods, because there were so many terrible complaints along the way. And now it'll be Casella. So that will start January 1st. There'll be a lot of education between now and then anyhow. What else do you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, just the challenges that were experienced was during that transition period with waste management, and they cleaned up their curbside trash and recycling really soon thereafter. You know, sometimes first impressions were hard to shake.
Yeah.
And then we ran into issues with the yard waste collection and them having enough resources dedicated to Shrewsbury, and we moved away from them about a year ago at this point. And we've been successful with Casella, and we're interested to continue that partnership. And they're the lowest bidder, so it worked out.
Now, a very common phrase that we hear nowadays is food insecurity, which is actually horrible to think that someone has that as an issue. St. Anne's Human Services does an awful lot to fill that gap. How does the town relate to St. Anne's in the food pantry, or and do you see a lot of that in the schools, that there are children coming to school hungry?
I mean, there are families that go to the Shrewsbury schools that are food insecure. The great thing, though, is that we have universal free lunch and breakfast available at the school. Students don't have to bring in lunch money anymore. If you want food, you come up, you buy it. Breakfast is available every morning. There's usually, yogurt and bagels, and it's available to anybody that wants it. We do, in terms of food services, if, kids want an extra lunch, there is a fee that's associated with that. But since having universal free lunch, we've seen more students buying, and that could just be because it's free now. But that way it takes the insecurity off, that if there's a child that they're not going through and coming to school hungry, and that they're not sitting there at lunch and watching other kids eat while they don't have that. So we do have plenty of food available at school to help with that.
And I'd just like to say that St. Anne's is a great resource for us, and they accept donations. So if you feel that you can donate, you don't necessarily have time, you can always financially donate, but that they have corporate sponsors, and there are businesses in town and outside of town that support this St. Anne's Food Pantry. But examples are like Trader Joe's and Target, and they also donate diapers, and they have the medical program. And right now there's like 400 families, 1,400 people approximately that are serviced. Knights of Columbus are very instrumental here. TJ Maxx, and then I know I read a couple of different places that Advantage Trucking donated at Christmas time. So there are a lot of businesses that do help support this, which I think is great, because it's not just tax dollars, which if it has to be, so be it. But I'm surprised there aren't more businesses. I mean, we have a lot of businesses in town. I'm surprised there aren't more businesses trying to knock down their door to use that as a place to donate, whether it's, people, services, product, whatever. But
the town's formal role in food pantries, food insecurity is pretty limited right now. We do have a pantry within the senior center to serve seniors. We are looking at exploring ways to partner with St. Anne's and the Worcester County Food Bank, and those conversations are ongoing. It's some ARPA initiatives that funds were set aside for to get a program started up.
who's designated for that in the town?
As far as
The employee. Who's the employee?
So, I mean, Holly Luke, as the COA director, is running the senior program, and then what we call our human services leadership team, which is recreation, library, council on aging, the town manager's office, and public health, are looking at how to build the program and provide broader food security to folks. And there's two select board members that participate with them as well. Our goal is to make sure that there's stability in the system. And St. Anne's is a wonderful organization that's run by volunteers, and we just want to have a good working understanding of how we can make sure that their relationships with those businesses and the Worcester County Food Bank and the town are strong enough that if their volunteers one day don't want to continue to do that, that we can fill that role or supplement that role or whatever it is.
I think it's good if the town works closely with the food bank, because it also helps, when students are identified through the school system, to make sure that people have what they need for food. I mean, that's just a basic need, and I would hate to think that we could have done more and we missed it. So I think that is really an important priority that should be in place. Enough of that. 300th anniversry. Time flies.
Time
It seems like
flies
they just
again.
had. It must have been the 250th, I guess. But anyways, do you have 9 members for that committee?
We may have 9 applicants at this point.
Oh, you haven't designated
There
yet?
hasn't been anyone designated because surprisingly, people weren't chomping at the bit to get on the committee, just like all other committees we've experienced.
Yeah, but you know why with this one?
Why?
It's intimidating. That
Okay.
is a huge job. That's like Spirit of Shrewsbury on steroids, and so you really need,
But it's fun.
Yeah,
It's gonna
I
be
would
fun.
say it'd be fun. Of all the committees, I would say this is probably the most interesting one to be involved with.
Yeah.
It's a lot of commitment, but so is any other committee.
but I bet that's it's an intimidating factor. But that will be in 2027, but that takes time to prepare and plan.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably look to seed some money in a town meeting this spring to make sure that the committee can get off and running and do their planning work that they need to do and have some resources at hand to get things moving. And
Now, how will you involve town employees or certain town departments, however needed?
yeah, however it's needed, whatever direction that the committee sets. We've seen cities and towns take on a year-long celebration. We've seen them have a one-day event, right? Like what direction are we going to head in, and how can staff best support them and help them do what they want to accomplish. Did
It'll
you
be-
want to be on the committee?
Well, I'm intimidated to be on the
Sounds
committee.
like it.
This is what the younger Donna would have loved to do, but the older Donna is saying, I don't know, that's too much. But so town hall expansion. If Selco moves out, would that mean there would be no expansion, or there still needs to be an expansion, but it might take on a different look?
It's the latter, yeah. So there still needs to be expansion in order to house all the school administration and provide adequate space for the town services that are currently there. We've talked about this a number of times.
Right.
We've taken over a lot of conference space and turned it into office space.
Right.
When the addition was put on in 1997, they did a really good job of making the highest foot traffic departments, the treasurer collector and the assessor, be there in that main center hallway. It means those poor hardworking employees don't have any access to natural daylight because they're in the center of the building without windows. So we'd like to fix that and kind of make that conference space and put employees where they have natural light. And just like we just talked about the high school, the last renovation at the town hall, significant renovation, was 4 years prior to the high school opening.
Wow.
So
True.
we just have some general HVAC work that we want to address, some AV, selectmen's meeting room upgrades, modernizing the inside of the building, maintaining the character of the outside, those types of things that we want to take on. So you know, the Selco aspect is a really important part. You know, they're on a multi-year journey to be able to just get there. I think we're going to have to do some temporary measures in the meantime to be able to accommodate space.
I just thought of something.
Yep.
Years ago, there was a group of people that would say, just put up portable classrooms. You can use a portable classroom in the meantime.
It's on under consideration for the annual town meeting, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah.
I was just being a wise guy.
I know, but an office trailer is something that we're considering for the town hall.
I experienced an office
Yep.
trailer at work at one point in my career, and it really isn't that bad if it's temporary. You can do anything if it's temporary.
Yeah.
And you know that there's something better coming.
Yeah, I mean, it would allow us to get some departments that need to be public facing, mainly recreation, out. That they're currently buried in the back of DPW, and just provide us a little bit of wiggle room. At this point, in nearly every office space, we, you know, don't have any opportunity to provide additional employees, and that hinders our ability to provide the service levels that we actually want to provide.
Not to mention their lunchroom is practically gone.
Yeah.
So here we go again. But is there any hope for Selco finding a prime location?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely on a path to look to renovate their space on Municipal Drive and see if they can go in that direction. I think that's their primary focus at this point.
Is there space next to their building? I mean, is that wetlands? Oh, that's too bad. Oh, well, maybe
Nothing in the back. The back's all
maybe you
residential,
could buy a couple houses on the corner and move in the other direction too. I don't know. I don't know that those people think that's very nice, but
no comment. at
no
this point.
comment. That was just a thought because I saw that other land and I thought I bet that's wetlands or they would have used
Yeah,
it
between
already.
the school and Selco, that's all wet there.
So the police station looks beautiful. And when you go by at night and the lights are on the building, it looks so nice. And I thought, town hall needs some primping out front. Like they need lights or something. There's no lighting out there. So even if there's like small fixes like that you could do for now, it would be nice because it really, I thought it was fine until we saw how nice the police station looks with the lights. I just think that there are some little things, but I can't wait to see how those trees come in to see how, you know, they close in the sacred acre,
Yeah,
you know,
it'll be nice. Yeah.
with border. I had another Selco question, but it's out of my head. Standard & Poor's, it's AAA bond rating. We've talked about that. How is that helping us lately?
Well, I mean, our most recent borrowing was a water borrowing that we did for two different time frames. One was a short-term note, one was a long-term note. So, I mean, it manages to keep the interest rates as low as they possibly can be, and this one was right about 4%, which is a lot cheaper than any private individual would be able to go out and access something like a mortgage, something for a similar term. So, I mean, that's where we leverage it the most. We also have found that, you know, our just total overall cost because of how we've managed projects have come in under budget, which has benefited other projects and reduced our need to borrow in the future. So that's not necessarily to do with our bond rating, but having the solid management that's recognized through the bond rating, you know, it's kind of a mutually beneficial aspect of that. So no borrowing plans in the near future, you know, for the next couple of years. So we, you know, are looking at the tax rate and the tax bills as we trend out over the future. Certainly with the override and the Beale elementary school and the police station, we've had the last few years of higher than average tax bill increases, and we're predicting that trend will flatten off over the next few years because we don't have any projects immediately in the pipeline. And even if we were to start something like the high school, debt on a project like that would not hit, you know, probably until at this point, you know, fiscal year 28 or 29. It's just a long way to go. Even if we were to jump on a town hall project, that's 3 or 4 fiscal cycles out. So plenty of time to go. So we'll see some moderation in tax bills over the next few years.
Really, because it surprises me how many people complain about our tax rate and how their taxes have gone up and they're not happy. And my only response is, well, we're accustomed to good plowing. We're accustomed to having our light department work, efficiently. We're accustomed to a certain level of educational priorities, and that we're accustomed to a lot of good things. And if we don't have those, we're not happy. So you get what you pay for. But when they complain about our tax rate, which I'm on a fixed income, I'm retired, but when people complain about that, you have to look to other towns and say, what's their tax rate and what do they have for services? Who compares?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we continue to have the lowest, I'll say, tax bill for all surrounding communities with when you look at the average single family home. So definitely the highest value. And then if you throw something like Selco on there, which, as they've recently reported, saves folks about $150 a month, when you add in internet and their electric bill into the mix, the value keeps going up. I mean, the comment that tax bills have gone up a lot recently, based upon what I just said, is absolutely true, right? Like there's no doubt about it. But those increases are cyclical and regular, I'll call them, as we make major investments to continue to be able to provide the services, as you said, that we expect. And certainly we've taken on some of the bigger projects than we ever have,
But our services, our tax bill is sort of going to be stable for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you'll see at least everything that we know now, right? Unless we have to borrow for some unexpected reason, that the increase that you'll see year over year in the tax bills for the next 3 years as compared to the last 3 bills will be much less on an annual basis than they have been.
I noticed that Selco, this is what I was going to bring up before, Selco is advertising a lot, marketing their product a lot. And I thought, why are they taking the time to do that? And then I thought, oh, they don't want the competition. Well, we don't want the competition either, because that competition is always more expensive than what we already have. We have excellent service from our light department. We have excellent service. We have reliable power. We get money as residents back into the town from Selco. Why on earth would we want that competition to even come near us? Is there any benefit to that? I don't see any.
I mean, from my perspective, no. And I think there's 2 main components to that. Three maybe. The first is a public policy question: is what is the internet to residents? Like, what does it mean today versus what did it mean in 2001 or 1997, whenever it was like a toy, compared to what does it mean for people's lives now?
Right.
And the reliability of high-speed service that is well maintained and upgrade when it needs to be, I think is what we get from Selco. So the more that you want to consider the internet a public utility and less a nice to have, the further that spectrum goes to a public utility, then it should be in the hands of the public. And I think the trend across the nation is more local governments wish or are trying to control their own destiny by having internet service than they ever have in the past, and we've just done it right for the duration. And then it's really a cost standpoint. Like, you would look to the private market if Selco's prices weren't competitive, but they are. And as we upgrade fiber to the home, we're just putting ourselves in a more future-proof situation to really be able to provide those services to residents. That's my opinion. The third, but probably not the strongest leg to stand on, is what we can do in partnership with the Selco as a local government. Kind of a smart city concept, like the Internet of Things in the public domain, having Wi-Fi in parks, having smart utility meters, having water meters that can detect if there's a leak inside your house rather than having to, worry about who's going to pay the $10,000 bill, because an elderly person just couldn't hear their toilet running day in, day out, for 65 days in a billing cycle. Enhancing pedestrian safety, doing all those things that you can do when you have that. Don't have to worry about each time you connect into the internet and want to use that service. That's what we get now, and that's what we can continue to leverage in the future.
Do you have any questions before I go on?
No, I mean, the only question that I could think of, because you had just said parks. So the Maple Fields are all torn up right now. And obviously, as somebody who has a child that plays softball on those fields and soccer on those fields, are we on track to make sure that softball and soccer are going to start at the right time?
Yeah. So that's the field disruption right now is just to install stormwater detention basins. So that will all be able to be, the infrastructure is in the ground already. So that'll all be buttoned up, and then all the other work is really within the roadways and then resurfacing the parking lots and all those things. That's why
It's on schedule.
yeah, it's on schedule for sure. It's why it becomes a mind-blowing thought, like, well, we'll just repave the parking lot, and then it's like we need $1.2 million to do that. It's like, what?
Right.
It's all the things that we have to do for stormwater, and we did want to make sure that we have water and sewer connectivity back into the site in case we ever do make future investments. We don't have to tear out the roadway that's in there. So
Now, we only
that's the way
have
we go.
a minute and a half.
Yep.
You had a podcast, and Mark Serra was your guest.
Yeah.
And Mark asked him a question that got me.
Uh-oh.
It was, what was your...
Mark's listening.
Good. You listening, Mark? What was your favorite TV show? And you said, well, it's actually not a show. It was a series. And it was...
Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers. So I thought, oh, why didn't I ever watch that? So I went back to watch it, and I thought, I know why I didn't watch it. It's so traumatic and so stressful. I shut it off the first time I tried to watch it. This time I said, okay, I'm going to watch it. Well, I have circles under my eyes because not only did I watch it this past week, I couldn't stop watching, but I couldn't sleep because it was so stressful. But what a series that was. And now I'm trying to psych myself up to watch The Pacific, which is the next cut.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I have not seen all of the Pacific.
So
Yep.
I said to my husband, you got to give me a couple days rest.
Does your husband like it?
He does.
Good.
But he watched it the first time too.
Oh, okay.
But I have to watch. I said, look, one show a night. I'm only watching one show a night. I can't do this. And then I go from that show, I have to watch comedy because
To lighten yourself up.
I gotta relax. But you know what? That's the reality of war. I mean, I can't believe how much they brought the reality of war. And I thought, phew.
Yeah.
But anyways, watch Band of Brothers because you learn a lot.
You do.
Even if you think you know the history of World War II, you still learn a lot. But time's up, and I'd like to thank you for being our guest.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Didn't get to finish my questions. That's okay.
You have lots of pages.